Again, I want to thank everyone for coming to the first Drei talk. I have only been here a few months. I started in August as a Scrum Master, and my name's Kelly Geyer. I have about 10 years of project management experience. I'm a certified project management professional, a certified Scrum Master, an Agile certified practitioner, and a scaled Agile framework Agilist. So what happens in a lot of companies that decide to become Agile is that they start with the IT department and forget about everybody else. And from the new faces I see here today, I have a feeling that is what happened here. Does it seem familiar that everybody's doing the Agile thing and other people who don't necessarily work in IT are wondering how in the world this applies to me? Why is this important? Why do they keep talking about this way of working? Why do they keep having all of these meetings, these retrospectives and planning, and why are there Post-it notes everywhere? So I thought I would put together my talk about how everyone can be Agile, even if you don't develop software, if you don't work in IT, even if you don't use a computer for work. So we'll start with what Agile is not, because there are a lot of misconceptions when we first start out that lead to a lot of pain and frustration and uncomfortableness. So first, it is not new. Agile has been around longer than pretty much everybody in this room, I believe. At least the beginning ideas of Agile, it wasn't technically put on paper and put on the internet and stuff like that until like 2000 something. But the basic ideas of inspect and adapt, reduce waste, things like that began as early as the 1930s. So I always find it a little bit interesting when I hear things like, Agile's the new buzzword. All of these companies are now suddenly becoming Agile. It's not new. It's been around for quite a long time. Since it's been around for so long, it's also obvious that it's not unproven. Companies have been doing this and succeeding with Agile for quite a long time. The majority of companies who decide to adopt the Agile mindset report changes that are positive, including increased productivity, improved quality, shortened time to market, and better alignment between business and IT. It's also not a methodology. So I know it's uncomfortable to hear that because everyone keeps saying Agile methodology, but it is not. It's actually pretty simple. It's just a mindset. It's a way of thinking about work. A mindset is just a way of thinking, so much so that it becomes a way of life. So it's actually harder than a methodology, unfortunately. Methodologies are easy. Someone tells you what to do and you do it, and now you're doing that methodology. Simple. It's also not complicated. It seems complicated because this is a fairly good size organization, and so it's pretty confusing to figure out how all of this affects each department and each person and each job, and those are some of the things that have to be examined, I guess, but really all Agile is 4 values and 12 principles. Boiled down, that's all it is. It's also not command and control management. That's a very traditional management style where I'm the boss, you're my employee, I tell you what I want you to do, and you do it, not because you like me or because I'm a good leader, but because I can fire you. That's an easy management style because it requires very little skill. That's the hard part about being Agile, is because that doesn't work anymore. You have to find your leaders and help them. And your leaders and your managers, instead of being commanding and controlling, need to speak with their employees and find out how they can help them get their job done. So there is a very huge difference between a traditional manager and an Agile leader. And that's what you need to find in order to be successful. Agile is also not without planning, documentation, and processes. That is one of the biggest misconceptions out there, is that somehow we're agile, so that means we have an idea, and instead of planning, we just jump right in and do it. And that is ridiculous, but it happens. It's also not without documentation or processes. We're in a regulated industry, we have audits. It also just makes sense from a business standpoint to have the necessary things documented. And you also can't run a business without some processes. It's just that you look at your processes a little bit differently and decide which ones make sense and which ones don't, and make sure that your processes don't block you from progress and prevent you from delivering customer value. And, sorry to tell you, Agile is not necessarily faster than Waterfall. That is another misconception. There is nothing about Agile that says it's faster than Waterfall every single time. Work takes a certain amount of time, period. If I say, it takes me 2 weeks to make this jacket, then it takes 2 weeks to make the jacket. It doesn't really matter if I say, well, it's going to take me 3 days to design it, and 2 days to find the material, and another 5 business days to actually sew it. But along the way, I'm going to come to you and say, oh, I found the design here, can you take a look as the customer? Then I'm going to buy the material and show you the material and say, do you like this? Is the fabric okay? And then finally make the jacket and give you the finished product. That's the difference. It still takes the same amount of time. Does it sometimes produce something faster? Yes. But it is not necessarily faster than Waterfall. It's also not magic. If a company decides to become agile, but there are cultural issues, management issues, leadership issues, software issues, quality issues, Agile is not a magic pill that you can take and poof, it all goes away and everything's perfect now. It takes work. That's why we're all here working together. It's also not a destination. So I don't know if anyone else has heard, when are we going to be agile? When are we going to be done with the transformation? Never, sadly. Sorry to tell you, even companies that have been agile 20 years are not done. They'll never be done. When you think you're done, you have a lot more work to do. You need to get back to the principles of Agile and reread them and learn again about continuous improvement and reflection time and getting better and constantly providing the customer with something of value. So we'll start with just the simple manifesto for Agile software development and then see how very slight changes can make it apply to anybody. So the 4 principles of Agile are individuals and interactions over processes and tools, working software over comprehensive documentation, customer collaboration over contract negotiation, and responding to change over following a plan. Most of that has nothing to do with software. So you can change a couple of words and focus on valuable outcomes over comprehensive documentation, so just get rid of that software part. And now you have really values that can apply to any part of this company or any company. And again, from the previous slide where we mentioned what Agile is not, you can see here processes and tools, documentation, planning. It doesn't mean that we forget about those things just because we are focusing more on the things on the left. We still value the things on the right, but not at the expense of the things on the left. So what are the 12 principles of Agile? There is an actual website out there for business principles of Agile, and so these are just shortened versions of that, but if you want the full wording, it's on our Confluence page. It's the continuous improvement of the customer experience, and the customer experience includes everything from phone calls to using your product to having an issue with your product and having to call in an 800 number, everything where a customer is touched, internal customer, external customer, continuously looking at how to improve that experience. You need to be highly adaptive and responsive. This means if there is a problem, if you notice an issue, how quickly can you adapt and fix it? How responsive are you? If you say, oh yeah, customers reported this issue and it took us 6 months to fix it, that's not highly adaptive just because you fixed it. It's also iterative delivery of customer value. So you don't just look at what are we doing now, we can make these fixes, and now we're done. It's look at what's happening, look at your product, what's wrong with it, how can we do better, do that. Now look at it again with the customer, get their input, what else would they like, what else would they like changed, implement those, show them again, do this continuously. It doesn't end. It also involves effective collaboration within your teams, across departments. Everyone has to work together to get things done. Just get the work done, and none of this like it's my job or it's your job or my ideas are for me only and I'm going to keep them to myself. It's collaborative, and everyone should be working towards the good of the company. And it also involves empowered teams, and they need an environment characterized by trust. So this goes back to the agile leaders, agile management that needs to change. Empowered teams mean the teams have the power to make their own decisions to get their work done. They don't need to run to a manager every time they run into a snag or have an issue or have a question. They should feel empowered to make the best decision they feel that they need to make, and have the freedom to ask their manager for their input. And it's also characterized by trust. So instead of running metrics constantly and checking up on people and making sure everyone's doing their job, managers trust their employees to get their job done. As a manager, you say, I need you to get this done, and then leave them alone. Let them do it, and trust them to get it done. Also, face-to-face communication is obviously the best method. It's not always possible, but it's better than email and much better than telephone calls because you can get nonverbal cues and things like that. This is another concept that's difficult to grasp, and it's a focus on valuable outcomes, not output. We're no longer counting how many bugs a team is fixing, or how many widgets they produced, or how many thingies you got done. And the focus needs to be on valuable outcomes instead of outputs, because, I don't know if you can see this, but probably not. It says, brilliant surgery, well done, shame the patient died. That is an example of, well, all the outputs were good, it was a brilliant surgery, they gave the patient anesthetic, the tools were all clean, the patient didn't get an infection, but they died anyway. So what is more important? Looking at all the little things that everyone did right, or looking at the final outcome of what happened? And so that's where the focus is. And also support relentless and sustainable innovation. And that's innovation not just with your products, but figuring out innovative ways of getting your work done, innovative ways of communicating with your fellow employees and your teammates, especially since here at Drei, we are not all co-located. So get innovative of how you can communicate as close to face as possible. There's also a focus on technical excellence and good design. Remember when I said Agile's not necessarily faster than waterfall? That is because the focus for Agile is quality. It's not how fast can you get it done, it's how good can you get it done. How perfect can it be? What kind of quality product can you produce? And unlike traditional waterfall methods, you should take the time to do things right. If your plan is, we'll just do it so it's done and then we'll go back later and fix it, how often does that not happen and it doesn't get fixed? And now you have something that you consistently refer back to and say, oh, well, I know this isn't perfect, but someday we're going to get to it and fix it. We'll fix this documentation. We'll change the website on this thing, or we'll fix our page on over here, or we'll fix our wall, or whatever. Whatever you happen to be working on that was put together and rushed to meet a deadline, and it doesn't even look good. It doesn't operate well. That's not Agile. Agile is you take the time that you need to produce something that has quality. And you also minimize waste. You maximize the amount of work not done. If there are things in your day that you're doing that waste time and don't produce anything of value, stop doing them. When you are looking at something that needs your attention and you need to get something done, kiss it. Keep it simple. Don't do things that don't need to be done. Focus on what would deliver the most value. And just because you are capable of doing something doesn't mean you should do it. How many times have you used software possibly and thought, oh my God, these developers, like why did they even add this feature in there? It makes no sense. Why did they change this part? Why did they add this thing over here in the corner? Now I can't use this. It's because they could. They knew how, so they thought, well, I know how to do this, so I'm going to do it. One of my team members sent a great video on a guy. He's actually a developer talking about drawstrings in pants for toddlers. They don't even work. They don't go anywhere. They don't tighten the pants. They don't hold them up anyway. It's just like this tiny drawstring for absolutely no reason. That is waste. That's an example of waste. Nobody needs it. Nobody wanted it, but it's there. The final few principles are small autonomous teams. Autonomous means self-governing. Self-organizing, they make the decisions that they need to make in order to get the job done. So cut the puppet strings, stop telling people how to do their jobs and let them do it. And this is one of my favorite quotes by Steve Jobs, because I love him. I love everything I have learned from his past. It doesn't make sense to hire smart people and tell them what to do. We hire smart people so they can tell us what to do. And he lived that. If you've never seen some interviews, obviously old interviews with Steve Jobs, they're worth listening to. It's fascinating. And also there's embedded reflection time and a culture that supports learning. So this is a good example of a guy coming around with round wheels, these guys struggling and saying, no, we don't have time. We don't have time to fix that. We're good. Don't be this guy. Don't be these guys. Take the time to meet with the people in your team and figure out how to do your job better. How can you improve? How can you improve the company? Not just your team and your work, but how can we improve the company? Share that idea and get it out there. So basically the 5 core concepts that are involved in that, the 4 values and the 12 principles, all focus on customer happiness in the center, and then quality, adaptability, simplicity, collaboration and communication, and trust. Focus on those 5 things. Where do you get started? Make your work visible. Get together with the people that you work with on a regular basis, your team, your department, whatever you want to call it. You don't have to form a Scrum team to be Agile. Just be a team. If you work in a certain department, that's your team. Figure out everything that your area needs to get done and make it physical. Make it so everyone can see, not just everyone in your area or your department, but everyone in the company. You can do it on a physical board, a whiteboard, Post-its on the wall, put it in Jira, whatever. And come up with just easy, like, statuses. This is stuff we want to do, this is stuff we're doing now, and this is stuff that's done. Keep it simple. Then do regular planning. So, this is all the stuff that you want to do, big ideas. You don't need that much detail on it yet, so it's pretty big chunks of work. Then as it gets closer to you actually being able to do it, you start breaking it down into smaller pieces, smaller, more achievable pieces, stuff that can get done in a day or 2. And then it starts filling up your task board. Have short sync sessions, with Scrum, we have 15-minute daily Scrums a day. If you're not a Scrum team, it doesn't have to be 15 minutes every day. If it's once a week for you, that's perfect, because these are not status meetings. Remember, you're trusting your fellow employees to do what they said they were going to do. You had your planning session where everyone said, hey, I'll do that, I'll do that, I'll do that task, I can get that done. So you don't need to have a status meeting because you trust everyone to do what they said they were going to do. Your sync sessions or your replanning sessions are only for your team to come together and ask for help if they need it. Say they need someone's assistance to get something done. Let you know they've run into an impediment or a roadblock. ask for their manager's help with something, bring up the fact that they might need more training in a certain area. That's all it's for. It's for replanning. And learn and improve by regularly reflecting. So in Scrum, that happens to be our retrospective meeting. You can have whatever meeting you want to call it, and just have a dedicated time each 2 weeks, every month. I wouldn't go longer than a month because then you just start forgetting what you did a while ago. If you go to quarterly, I don't know if you can remember things that went wrong or went well 3 months ago, but I'm just getting old enough where that gets harder and harder. So, and during these times of reflection, you want to make action plans. You don't just want to have a meeting where you complain about things that happened. You want to make an action plan. Okay, this happened, it was not good. What do we do? Who's going to do it? These things went well, we want to keep doing them. We want to do more of them. Who is going to take ownership and make sure that that happens? And make a note of that, but don't do all of them. Make small incremental improvements. When you try to change everything, it's painful and uncomfortable. And then you can't tell what really worked or what was influenced by something else. And last but not least, contact your Scrum Masters for help. We're here, we have our teams, but we're also here to help the company. And like I said, starting with small improvements, these are 4 easy steps that anyone can do. Whether you work in a team of 2 people, or you're 1 person, or you're 20 people, these are 4 steps that can work with everyone. And the Scrum Masters can help you facilitate those ideas. That's it. Any questions?
First of all, thank you very much for this. I thought this was really, really cool. I guess like one of the things I really wanted to, that you often hear, and I'd love to get your take on, is this whole idea of like failing fast or making mistakes quickly, kind of getting them out of the way. So how does that work into this approach that you're advocating, and how would failing fast translate to, for example, a regulatory department?
Regulatory, you don't want to fail too much. You want to fail as little as possible, as infrequently as you can. But in other areas, yeah, the whole idea of innovation only works if people are not afraid to fail. And Steve Jobs is one of my favorite examples of a leader who embodied that. Apple has had more products fail than succeed, believe it or not. It's because they are not afraid to try everything. They have had so many products flop as soon as it was put on the shelf for sale. But the ones that were big were huge. And the company has regular sessions where the entire organization comes together and brainstorms and throws out ideas. And the gist of it is that there's no idea that shouldn't be shared. And you shouldn't consider feasibility or possibility. So even if you come up with an idea and go, oh, but there's like, I can't even think of a way that it could even happen, throw it out there anyway. Throw out every idea that you have, and if your idea fails, that's fine. Really, even if your idea goes to market, if Apple decides we're going to take Peter's idea and we're going to make this product and produce it and sell it, and it fails, Peter still has a job. Everyone who was involved in the project and who thought it was a good idea still has a job, and it's fine. Because they adapt really quickly. They pull that loser off the shelf as quickly as possible and try and come out with the next best idea. And he didn't fail alone. He didn't come up with an idea and then push everyone to do it. There was a group of people who said, yeah, that seems like a good idea. We can do that. Let's do it. So there is collaboration. There are people that needed to get together and speak and decide, yes, we can do this. We all think it's a good idea. And for a multitude of reasons, it could fail for something completely outside your control. It could be a recession that hits. Who knows? It doesn't matter. Apple, that particular company, will look at why did it fail and how do we have it not happen again. A common theme with them is that they don't fail for the same reason more than once. So the key is to be quick. And yeah, Don't be afraid to try things that seem crazy.